Okay, finally, the Blackhawks have a day's worth of a break. So, we can sit back, relax, and finally make a video about the first overall pick, Connor Bedard, and how he's performed so far in the NHL. Now, the guy, at the time of recording this audio, has 2 games played, 1 goal and 1 assist. He had scored his first point, the assist, against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and then he scored a goal the next night against the Boston Bruins. Now, the Blackhawks won the first game against Pittsburgh, they lost the second game against the Bees, and Connor Bedard had himself a showcase that was pretty notable in both of them. Today, what I wanted to do was just kind of casually go over how he was playing. You know, if somebody asked you, how was Connor Bedard? This is what I'd say. Because essentially, when it comes to Bedard being this first overall franchise, generational talent like we all have been saying that he's going to be, even though in his first 2 games he only scored a goal and an assist for 2 points in 2 games, it's not like Connor Bedard had any series of shifts where he razzle-dazzled the pants off of 5 opposing players and then deked out the goalie and then made a really beautiful top-shelf goal. Like, he hasn't had that level of success just yet. I'm sure that is attainable in his career as he gets older, but in the first 2 games of his career so far, you kind of saw Bedard just play it a little bit safely. And I say that in the best way possible, because in junior with the Regina Pats, Connor Bedard knew that he was the best player in that league. He knew that he was the best player at that age range in that league in years. So whenever he played, you could kind of feel that vibe off of him. Bedard would hold onto the puck for a few extra seconds before passing it off. He would try to make that extra dangle to get right by a guy. He would try to lead the puck right through everybody by himself. And that's okay, because he could. Like, he was that good, right? So it's not like it was inappropriate, it was just the pattern that we had seen out of Bedard. And sure, while he did have some shifts in the Chicago-Pittsburgh and Chicago-Boston games where he did kind of take the puck himself, come in through the middle, maybe get by a guy and then take a shot on goal, there wasn't that same, okay, I'm going to take this shift and put it into my own hands type of attitude. He was passing it a little bit more, using his teammates more, which is okay, especially for an 18-year-old at 5'8", whatever he is, in the National Hockey League. This is not the same junior competition he had been playing his entire life. But either way, Connor Bedard walks away out of these 2 games with a goal and an assist. The first point that he had was a pretty, I don't want to say, like, not substantial point. I mean, of course, it's important, the first point that he ever scores, but, like, it was a secondary assist where Connor Bedard passed the puck, and eventually it was thrown on goal. Jason Dickinson is there to get the rebound, so Connor is on the board for the very first point of his career. Even though this was the only point he had accomplished in the Pittsburgh game, there still were many chances in the offensive zone where Bedard was throwing the puck on goal, or he was creating a little bit of space for himself on the half wall, using his teammates and passing them off, just kind of getting up to speed with the NHL game. He played at the bottom left position in the offensive zone in the power play, and for the most part, he looked so poised and so calm that it was kind of difficult to tell that he was a first-year rookie. He just looked so comfortable in that spot. Of course, this first game was important because it was against Sidney Crosby. They took the opening draws against each other. Crosby dominated the dot against Connor. In fact, Bedard wasn't really that great in the faceoff circle to begin with, but the guy is playing in his very first NHL season, so it's okay. Despite this, though, he did have a few good opportunities, and he was getting more comfortable as the game went on, but the first goal that he scores does not come until the Boston game the very next night, where you had some really funny comments by Brad Marchand regarding the entire thing. Take a look at this. This is what they asked Marchand in regards to Bedard. Do you have any advice for Bedard tonight? No, I don't. What are you going to say to him? Nothing. He's a great player. You leave a guy like that alone. You came into the league as a relatively smaller guy, and he's a relatively smaller guy. I'm bigger than him, Marchand says. You then had the clip going around social media of Marchand kind of just dragging Bedard and almost pulling him into the Boston bench, which was really funny, and we have seen a lot of people joking around and memeing with this clip. Brad Marchand, of course, doing Brad Marchand-like things, kind of trying to get under the skin of 18-year-old Connor Bedard in the NHL. But this game was also substantial because Bedard ends up getting his very first NHL goal, and it's a pretty good one too. The Chicago Blackhawks in the first period end up taking the puck in the zone. Bedard with a beautiful drop pass back to Ryan Donato. It goes back to Bedard. He takes the shot. The rebound pops out behind the net, and then Bedard wraps it around on Ullmark, who is completely not committed to that far side post. Bedard with a wraparound goal. It's his first in the NHL, and this is another example of one of these plays where it's like, yeah, it's not like he dazzled your pants off, but he just got the job done. That beautiful behind-the-back no-look pass was a work of art, and then his ability to follow through with the play and appropriately get the puck on goal afterwards with the wraparound is a very good indicator of his hockey sense and his awareness. It's the little things that Connor Bedard does that make him such an effective hockey player, even if he's only getting 1 goal or 1 assist in a game. Here's the hockey stat card of Chicago versus Boston from Wednesday night, wherein Bedard scored the goal. He had the best production and offensive-based metric on his team. Now, sure, you could say that he was negative in the defense and miscellaneous, but the Chicago Blackhawks are the Chicago Blackhawks. This is not going to be too much of an amazing team in terms of how they play the game. But for Bedard, just getting that offense, getting those transitions, getting the data all in the places that we need it to be, it's going to make things a little bit easier to transition forward as Taylor Hall takes some time off. That guy got hit pretty hard in the head-shoulder area, and he had to leave the game, so we'll see what happens with Hall as the weeks go on. But for Connor Bedard, so far, he's been looking all right in the NHL. Another thing I'm really interested in seeing is how badly these broadcast crews are going to milk Connor Bedard's existence on their broadcasts. Because in the first game against Sidney Crosby, you had crazy, stupid stats popping up on the screen like, oh, Connor Bedard was X years old when Crosby was drafted. Okay, cool. He was like born or whatever. And then when he scored his first assist or his first goal the other night, it was like, oh, how many goals does Connor Bedard have? He's got 1. How many does Wayne Gretzky have? He's got 890 something. Like, they just keep on putting up the most ridiculous stats possible of Connor Bedard to try to hammer down the point as to how young he is, which I guess it's not that bad, but like at the same time, it did get a little bit much over the past few days, I feel. Like, every year, there's usually a first overall prospect that makes the NHL right away, and he's super young, right? Why do I feel like this Bedard thing has been hammered down so much more than when Tim Stützle made the NHL as an 18-year-old, or when Lafreniere and Jack Hughes made the NHL when they were young? Like, I get it, Connor Bedard is this young up-and-coming superstar. He is going to be amazing, he is phenomenal, and there is a lot of hype behind him. But I guess the NHL has to do what they can to get eyes on the TV screens, right? And it works too, because Connor Bedard's debut against Pittsburgh was one of, or I think it was the highest viewed regular season game that wasn't like an outdoor game on ESPN in history or whatever it was. It was some crazy out of this world stat like that. Of course, it helps that Bedard is playing off against Sidney Crosby, but either way, in the first 2 games of Connor Bedard's NHL career, he's got a goal and an assist. He's looking pretty good. I'd say that he's actually transitioning pretty well. He's making some very sneaky, offensively potent plays, but we're still waiting for him to really activate that offensive signature style that allowed him to dominate shifts in the WHL. He hasn't done that just yet, but he's been on a pretty good track to doing so, I'd feel. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Bedard's debut in the NHL so far? How do you feel about how he's played against Chicago, or not against Chicago, excuse me, against Pittsburgh and Boston? And what are some interesting things that stood out to you about his game? Did you also see some of the passiveness compared to his WHL play? Did you also see him playing a little bit more on his teammates and relying on them more so than I feel like he has done in previous years? Is that just a testament to the different environment of the NHL, or do you think this is just feeling things out? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Connor Bedard and his debut. I hope you enjoyed this Vrishashros 99, and bye.